going 7-9. Okay? I'm not going 7-9. Okay? 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 I'm not going 7-9. Okay?
Welcome to the Grueling Truth LA Rams 2.0 weekly show, brought to you by the GruelingTruth.net and Gridiron Mo, an interesting new interactive football game app which pits you against other football fans across the country in predicting the next play within live NFL games. Think you're smarter than the average fan? See for yourself at Gridiron Mo through the GruelingTruth.net or directly at gridironmo.com. My name is Alex Davis. I'm the co-host of the LA Rams 2.0 show, and joining me as co-host, as always, is former Notre Dame great and player with the Buffalo Bills and our Los Angeles Rams, Tony Hunter. How's it going, Tony?
Everything's going great, Alex. How about you today?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Like I was saying earlier, I'm a bit tired watching that final game of the World Series. It went late, man. Even here on the West Coast. It was late when that thing ended. I can't imagine how you all must feel out there. Today, Tony and I are joined by a very special guest, a man who truly needs no introduction. But since this is the podcast format, I'll give you an introduction anyway. We're joined today by one of the all-time great Los Angeles Rams, a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time All-Pro, the 1969 NFL Most Valuable Player, and still the Rams' all-time franchise leader in career passing touchdowns. And his name is Roman Gabriel. Thanks very much for joining us today, Mr. Gabriel.
Hey, always a pleasure to be on, especially with Tony don't get the credit he deserves because in a way I follow a lot of the Ram guys, and Tony was a super tight end, and then he finished up in Buffalo, and I know he was good. If you go to Notre Dame, you got to be good.
Wow.
I almost went to Notre Dame, but it was too far for me to thumb back and forth from Wilmington, North Carolina to.
Right.
So you actually Roman, you actually went to North Carolina State, correct?
That's correct, because it was closer to home.
Okay. So the ACC back in those days, was the ACC pretty competitive? It's getting better now. It's always been known as a basketball conference, but back in your time, was it a pretty good conference?
Well, the conference itself was pretty strong, but outside the conference, we weren't as strong as some of the conferences. But as you mentioned, basketball, because we had the great Everett Case at State, and Carolina had the great Dean Smith, so there were
right.
And Al McGuire, a lot of great coaches were in the ACC basketball.
Right, I remember David Thompson when I was coming up. Unbelievable basketball player.
Oh, he could jump up the top of the backboard and take a dime off the very top of the backboard.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, I know. He wasn't very tall either. Maybe 6'4", 6'5".
Tony, can you imagine if they had the dunk rule? David would probably been the leading scorer in college basketball.
Oh yeah. Oh, you couldn't dunk back at that time in college basketball.
No.
Oh yeah, he was unbelievable. I think he had something like a 47 or 40-inch vertical jump. He was incredible.
That's correct.
But yeah, Roman, I know. Okay, I had a couple questions that I've always wanted to ask you, and I came from Buffalo and I went to the Rams, and I was so excited about getting out of that weather in Buffalo and getting to Los Angeles. I was just wondering, you spent quite a bit of time in Philadelphia, I believe, before you actually got with the Rams. 5 or 6 years, was it? Or
yeah, actually, I started with the Rams, and after 11 years, they decided I wasn't any good anymore. So I finished my last 5 years in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. The last 5 years were in Philadelphia. Okay.
Right.
So while you were with the Rams, some of your teammates, was it Jack Youngblood and Freddie Dyer, Rosie Greer, and those guys? Were they teammates?
Yeah, Jack came in near the end of my career with the Rams. The greatest ones, though, were Merlin Olsen, David Deacon Jones, and you mentioned Rosie Greer, and Lamar Lundy. That was the original Fearsome Foursome. And the ones that followed them, you still had the Deke and Merlin, Dyron Talbert, and Coy Bacon. And then we got the great Roger Brown, who, Tony, if you're ever in Virginia Beach, you got to go to Roger Brown's sports restaurant. He serves collard greens, and cornbread.
Oh, yeah, I need to go, definitely. Most definitely. Now, was Jackie Slater with the Rams at that time when you played?
No, Jackie came after I'd left.
Okay, by the time I got to the Rams, Jackie had been in the league 16 or 17 years or something. Seemed like he had been there forever, but I had a chance.
2 years. My last 2 years, you had Fred Dreyer.
Okay.
And Jack Youngblood were the two top pass rushers.
Yeah, now I met Jack while I was with the Rams. He was doing some work with the Rams, and I would see him in the locker room and just out on the practice field. Great guy.
Oh, a great guy. I hope you had a chance to meet one of the all-time great guys, Scooter Bass, Dick Bass.
You know what? He was doing radio when I was with the Rams.
Yeah, he was one of the probably as good as there ever was at running back for the Rams.
Is that right?
Oh yeah,
more so than Eric Dickerson.
He held the record until Eric Dickerson came along.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? I tell you what, that's a well-kept secret because I didn't hear much about him while I was out there. But he was doing the radio during the time that I was playing, and he was a good guy.
Yeah, Dick, in the early part of his career, not only was a running back, he also returned punts and kickoffs for the Rams.
Wow, that was a great time in the NFL. And another question. I mean, you played for a long time in the NFL, and they didn't have the kind of rules to protect the quarterback back in your day. And I've seen some quarterbacks back in your time take some wicked shots. We have Cam Newton coming up this week with the Rams. We playing Carolina. Cam Newton says he doesn't feel safe out there on the football field. Just a question for you, Roman. Did you feel safe when you were on the football field back in your time?
Let me tell you something, Tony. You're not supposed to, as you well know, you played a tough position.
Right.
You're not supposed to feel safe. You're supposed to protect yourself.
Right.
That's why
Thank
nowadays, with the rule they have about protecting quarterbacks, I think it's made the quarterbacks a little weaker because I see more quarterbacks getting hurt sliding head first.
Right.
See, the way I looked at it, I took shots, got hit in the face, the nose, and all that good stuff.
Oh,
when
yeah.
When I had a chance to scramble, I picked out guys that I knew had hit me, and I tried to go hit them.
Exactly. Me too.
Actually, deliver the blow, right?
Right. I would do it. I definitely would do it. If a guy got a good shot on me, if I was coming across field and the play was coming back toward me, I'd look for the guy that got a good shot on me and try to get me a shot in on him.
I know you have to get even.
Actually, I'm glad you brought this up, Tony, because I had a question along this line for Roman as well. I asked Tony this during our first show, a similar question. So let's take a look here. In your MVP season in '69, all right, you went for 2,549 yards in passing. You had 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in 14 games. Now, if you were playing in the pass-happy, quarterback-friendly NFL these days, what kind of stats would you rack up?
Well, if I was playing now, I probably couldn't rack up any because I'm too beat up.
You played a long time.
I got your question. Probably the only time that I actually got to throw the ball a lot, because even when Tony was playing, 20 to 30 times was a lot of times throwing the ball.
Exactly.
So when I went to Philly, we were behind every game, So I threw the ball more than ever. And that would probably be more of an example of how I might have done in this day and age. But I might not have lasted either, Tony. Because
you might not have what now?
I might not have lasted very long because I never slid, never ran out of bounds, and I don't think I would do it now.
I know. I remember you playing. And I tell you, you were tough. You would hang in that pocket and deliver that football. And I don't know. It's a good thing, I think, that they're kind of protecting the players a little more as far as the headshots are concerned. But in a way, I think it's taken away from the game. And I don't know if it's affecting ratings right now, but the ratings seem to be down a little bit right now for some reason.
Actually, I wanted to ask both of you guys about this. What's your take on the drop in popularity of the NFL this season in particular, in the last couple, 3 seasons? What's going on here? What's your take?
I think it's overexposure. Because I know when I played and when Tony played, you got the one game on Sunday, and maybe if you're lucky, you got Monday Night Football. Now you get two games. I know how many you get. Gosh knows you get 3 or 4 on Sunday.
Yes.
And 1 on Monday, and sometimes 2 on Thursday.
Yeah. And you know what? I that's something to think about. That's something. It's an awful lot of football right about now that you get throughout the week, and then Sunday. The NFL actually, it seems like they actually own Sunday because it's on all day and night. So
that's right.
I would agree with that. I think in a way, with it being the season of the political season that we have right now with the elections and I think that may somehow be affecting the ratings right now too. I think that may play a part, Oz.
I agree with you, especially when they had the Sunday and Monday games opposite the debate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, those games got killed. I mean, those debates were the most watched thing on TV since, I don't know, Cheers went off the air.
And you know, there's some games that don't make sense. Maybe when they schedule them, they might, but by the time they get to some of the games, the 2 teams are playing, nobody really wants to watch because they all got more losses than wins.
Right, yeah. Now, late in the season, they have the so-called flex game, which is that Sunday night game. So they can change the schedule at the last minute and say, okay, Patriots, you're playing on Sunday night or whatever, against Denver or whatever it is. They can do that now, but they don't do it in the first half of the season. So we're going to start seeing a little bit of that now. But, I mean, that's one suggestion that's out there. It's just like, okay, why don't you just flex every week? It might help. It would certainly help that Sunday night game, which has not.
Oh, yeah, because you think about last week. I'm trying to think of some of the games that they weren't showing.
I think Seattle, Arizona was a Sunday night game, the 6-6 game.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Yes, it was.
Good defensive game.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the viewing audience was like, thought that it sucked. The points are sexy, right?
I know everybody wants each team to score 50 points a game.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
All right.
You impressed me, Tony. You got a little old school in you too, because it's not bad to see good defense.
Oh.
Right. I tell you what, when I played, that was during the time the Chicago Bears had one. I know it was the best defense that I ever played against. So I had a chance to see some pretty good defensive players when I played. But I actually found out later on, Roman, that I was hurt when I was with the Rams. I was playing with a torn meniscus in my knee. It was kind of misdiagnosed, and I know you've heard all the stories of players playing with injuries and stuff like that. But I just wish I could have been healthy. I wish I had known that was a torn meniscus, and I ended up really screwing the thing up. I played 2 years with that thing, and when I finally had the surgery done, it was pretty much too late, and I never played another down.
Yeah, you came in right at the tail end of them finally starting to realize that there's certain things you have to take care of right away.
Yeah.
just like concussion. See, they used to call concussions when we played, depending on the severity of a headache. If they give you a 1, 2, or 3 aspirin headache, you could go back in the game. If it was more than that, then you had to sit out.
Right, right. Or you got dinged. You got dinged, no big deal.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I've heard that one, ringing the bell.
Yeah. You want to play. It's hard to sit there and tell a guy that wants to play because jobs are so much at a premium. If you didn't play next week, you might not be on the team.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I a couple of years ago, I remember Ben Roethlisberger was up in Pittsburgh, and they were in summer camp, and he left summer camp to go get a second opinion about an injury that he had. The team doctors were saying one thing, but he wanted to get a second opinion from his own doctor, and he left summer camp. Now, back in my day, you wouldn't have a job when you came back if you left camp.
You're right. There were no such thing as a second opinion.
No, right.
The last year or two before I left the Rams, they had given me first shots in my right elbow. Are you still there?
Yes.
Hello? My last 2 or 3 years before I was let go to Philadelphia, I had so many shots in my right elbow from taking hits that it calcified and I couldn't hardly touch my shoulder. And the only way that I was able to play is a friend of mine introduced me to an acupuncturist and got me through the whole year before I had my arm operated on.
Wow.
But
yeah.
Right, you had no second opinion. If you're lucky enough to find an acupuncturist, maybe that would be a second opinion.
And you know what? I found one, Roman. I found one when I tried out with San Diego my last year. Gilbert from San Diego told me about an acupuncturist, and they actually got me back on the field that summer camp. Yeah, sure did.
Oh, I still go once. I got one down there where I live. I go once every 2 weeks for my arthritis, and it keeps me going.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I want to talk with a veteran player that played a long, long time. What do you feel? How do you feel the new collective bargaining agreement, the new head of the Players Association? Do you feel there's been an improvement as far as the treatment of retired players? Give me your feelings on that.
You know, as far as some of the things that have been done, like concussions and some of the operational stuff, but the thing that still bothers most of us, I'm speaking for a lot of the guys that I know, is that with all the money, and this affects you to a certain extent, with all the money that's being poured into the league, that a lot of the Players Association doesn't try to move a little bit more of that down to guys like you and me and even guys before me.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
You know, the way I look at it, I said, look, just bump my pension a little bit, and then you don't have to give me anything else. Because I already pay for my health care.
They do?
Yeah. And you do.
No, I didn't. No, I'm not currently being covered for health care through the NFL.
No, you know, now, from what I understand, the players now, they get 5 years after they retire free health care, and then after that runs out, they can buy into the owner's plan, which has got to be much less than what's out there.
Okay. That's interesting.
You got to find out about that, Tony.
Oh, I definitely need to find out about that. Yeah, but that's not what that's not what I was told the last time I talked with the Players Association. So I'm going to check into
that group. See, that I'm not sure how far it goes back. I know that the guys now that are playing and a few years prior to the guys, but I'm not sure how far it goes back, whether it covers you or not, because you left the game. When did you leave, Tony?
1990 was the last year that I tried out with San Diego.
Well, you probably won't get coverage either. You're going to have to keep buying your own.
Yeah, and that's terrible. With playing such a tough game like football, and you really don't start to feel the effects until you've been out of the league 10, 15 years, 20 years. Then you realize, the kind of pounding you put your body through.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to get on to the present-day Rams, and Roman has actually already done an interview here at the gruelingtruth.net. I'll post a link to it on the post that accompanies this podcast, but I got to ask you, I still got 2 or 3 questions that I got to ask you, Roman, that are probably pretty obligatory to ask somebody like you. All right, so here's one. You talked before about, hitching to Notre Dame would have been inconvenient. So here you are, you're a North Carolina boy, and you're drafted number 2 in the NFL. You're drafted number 1 into the AFL. You come to Los Angeles. What were your impressions?
Well, see, we had been there twice before because when I was at NC State, we played UCLA twice.
Oh, right. Okay.
But my impressions was like, so here comes the country boy into the big city. And then Los Angeles was only 7 million people, so it's not. I have no idea how many people there are now.
Yeah, well, they count the whole area. Some put it at like 20 million for the whole area.
Wow.
I mean, Los Angeles is a county now. They count it as a county. I mean,
you know what's interesting? I had stolen some socks from school. I don't know if Notre Dame this, but like they had NCS on them for North Carolina State.
Right.
They had North Carolina State T-shirts. I remember when I arrived training camp, I had that stuff on. These guys looked at me like, here's a guy coming in as a second choice. He's making about $15,000. He got a $5,000 bonus, and he's wearing stolen school stuff.
Nice. I'm sure you get asked this one all the time still, Roman, but again, it would be remiss for me not to ask. So what can you tell us about George Allen, and how much of an impact did his coaching have on your career?
Tony, you would love to play for Coach Allen because he was a player's coach.
Yeah.
He only asked of you to respect him. You didn't have to like him, but as long as you respected him, then you had a shot. And he'd go to bat. He used to help negotiate contracts because the Rams were so cheap with the money.
Wow.
I never forgot one of many sayings. He always said, especially when he first took over, and we weren't very good, his first comment was, boys, you guys complain about having a problem. Did you realize a man or woman without problems is dead? So be thankful you've got a problem. You have a day to live and a challenge to that problem to solve it. I never forgot that.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about him.
Same way.
Yeah, I've heard Deacon Jones. I think he was really close. His whole family was close with the team, and I think he has a daughter that named her son after Deacon Jones.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
She named it. Then Deacon got mad because she named her first son after me, Roman Allen.
Really? Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, Deacon got fired up about it, so she had to name the second one after Deacon. And I've got a lot of comments nowadays because with all the stuff that's on YouTube, and there's interviews out there where they're asking Deacon about quarterbacks because he hated quarterbacks. He said, look, I even hate our quarterback because he's a quarterback.
Yeah, that was an interesting time back then. So was it? Were you guys pretty close back then off the field, or what was it like then? I know for me,
I think that's one of the reasons we turned it around, because with the plan that Coach Allen had, plus after every game, especially home games, George Allen, out of his own pocket, would pay for a gathering for the players and their wives. We'd have like big spread at dinner and milk and cookies and this stuff. Maybe if you drink beer. And we took it one step farther. On Thursday nights, a lot of the guys, we'd all get together and have. I don't know if you ever had dinner trainees.
I don't think so.
Well, you need to go to Long Beach because they're there now. They got the greatest food. When I was playing and we guys were playing, they had one of the greatest restaurants in Long Beach. So on Thursday night, we'd all go down there with our wives and have dinner and have a few pops.
Now, see, we used to, there was a Mexican restaurant we used to go to after games that was in Orange County. But the nightlife was Carlos and Charlie's down on Sunset Boulevard. I mean, we had some great times down there. You see all the stars from LA, they'd be in that place. I can remember seeing Jim Brown in there a lot, Magic Johnson. God, I remember seeing a lot of stars. Everybody used to go to Carlos and Charlie's on the weekends.
Yeah, we used to have a place, it's probably not, called the Sports Page.
Okay.
Santa Monica Boulevard. The bottom floor was a haberdashery, so if you stayed long, you could buy a new set of clothes to go home with. The second floor was the health club, if you wanted to get in shape with. And the third floor was a disco and a dinner place.
Right.
Wow.
And just like you said, all the big guys, Jim Brown, Wilt,
right.
Elton, all the guys were there.
So as far as ownership, was that Georgia Frontier? Was Frontier's family involved with ownership at that time?
Yeah, she was the ownership, her and her husband.
Okay.
Yeah, they came in. I think I played 3 years under them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now see, Georgia was the owner while I was there. She would fly in the summer camp sometimes, summer practices on her helicopter, and it was at that time we were actually in Orange County at Anaheim. We played at Anaheim Stadium, and we practiced at Ram Park. I'm not sure if you ever went out to Ram Park to the practice facility out there.
Yeah, we practiced because we were all over. The last few years we practiced at Long Beach State.
Okay.
And then we practiced at Blair Field, which was Long Beach State Blair High School's facility.
Wow.
Right. I tell you, times have changed. These facilities they have right now, I tell you,
I know.
Definitely times have changed. I'm sorry?
You and I and guys that played before us, we had a little bit to do with what's going on now.
I agree.
Well, I got one more for you, Roman, from these times. When I was researching to do this interview, I found something very interesting. You know, you think back on the 60s, 70s, 80s, these times, and, to be on the Rams or the Dodgers or the Lakers, it kind of made you a bit of a celebrity, right? And,
You're right.
And some of the guys that you all have mentioned in this podcast, I've got Rosie Greer, Deacon Jones, Merlin Olsen, Fred Dreyer. All these guys went on to do TV and movies and stuff like that, right?
So they were larger than life.
Right. But then I looked at your resume, Roman. I mean, you did some, wild stuff. I mean, you were in a John Wayne film. You were in Gilligan's Island. You were on Ironside. I mean, how did this work? Did the agents just come to the practice and say, "Oh yeah, I like that guy. Let's put him in a TV show"?
Well,
I mean, how did that work? How did you get these parts? And also, I had a question for Tony. How come you never went into acting, Tony?
We didn't really have that. Like I said, we were in Orange County during the time that I played, and I don't think we had the opportunity of Hollywood.
That's right. You guys were out in Anaheim. That's right.
Yeah, we were out in Orange County in Anaheim and practicing Fullerton. So I don't think we had the same opportunities to get into Hollywood as much as they did back when they were actually in L.A.
And so how did you get into it, Roman?
Well, the undefeated Merlin Olsen already had a part. And of course, Merlin and I were roommates for 11 years, and he already had a part in that movie. And they were looking for somebody to play Blue Boy, John Wayne's adopted son. So Merlin recommended me and introduced me to Andy Finnerty and Andrew McLaughlin, who was the producer and the director. And I got an audition. So I got lucky and got the part, and then it sort of spreads around, and then I started getting calls. I went to Vietnam with Bob Hope, and that was a good one to know, because Hope was one of the greatest.
Definitely.
But, you know, once you circulate, it's like you were saying, if you were a Ram or a Lake or a Dodger, people got to know who you were, and if you got involved a little bit, then you got the chance to go to a TV series and do Wonder Woman with Linda Carter. Woo!
Nice. You just became more of my hero. Anybody who co-stars with Wonder Woman is okay with me.
So are you still in Los Angeles now, Roman? Do you live in LA now?
No, I'm back in North South Carolina, where I'm from.
Oh, okay. You went back home.
Yeah, I'm just not doing a whole lot, just trying to live the last days of my life being who I is.
It's a little dark there. Little macabre there, Roman. Okay, let's talk some Rams Panthers. This is the game next week that our Los Angeles Rams of today are playing in, and I guess that the big conversation about the Rams these days, and one that I hope Roman can help us answer a little bit, can be summed up in 2 words, and those 2 words are Jared Goff. What's your take on what's going on with the quarterback situation in Los Angeles, Roman?
Well, you know, Jeff Fisher is a little old school, and much like George Allen, some of the old school coaches, you generally go with your veteran first, and up until last week when Keenum threw 4 interceptions, he was playing rather well. And, you know, Goff, a lot of people say, well, why don't Jeff play Goff? And I think it's because Fisher is a little old school, and you give your veteran a chance, and he hadn't been playing that poorly. You know, but then you look at the Eagles have got a rookie quarterback in Wentz, and Prescott at Dallas, they aren't doing too bad. And you look last year, look at some of the rookies that got to play. Marcus Mariota, Russell Wilson, Teddy Bridgewater, Cam Newton, James Winston, Derek Carr. They were all rookies, too. They didn't play too badly.
Right, exactly. I agree 100%. And Jared Goff, I mean, he was the number 1 pick in the entire draft. But I think, as Roman would say, I think Jeff Fisher's old school that way, and in his past, his history has shown that he likes to bring his franchise quarterback along a little more slowly.
Well, you know,
yeah, but some people say
patient because it took me 4 years before I ever got a chance to be the starter.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, fewer teams, though, right? I mean, that's the argument that there's fewer teams, so you can afford to keep 2 really quality quarterbacks. You know, you have the Montana Young situation. You can easily do that, or the Favre situation. You know, Favre Rodgers, where you can have 2 A-list quarterbacks at a time. But I think the Rams are in a more desperate situation here. And the other thing is, a lot of folks talk about Vince Young when they talk about Fisher.
If they lose a couple more games here in the beginning, then I think Goff will get his shot. But right now, the Rams are still in it in that division. And like I say, Fisher being old school, Keenum is still playing well except for this last pass game.
And then they're coming off, a 3-game losing streak. They're in a bye week right now. Coming off a bye week and a 3-game losing streak.
Because the Panthers made their ship this past weekend. They played like the old Panthers. They put it there.
Except that, and you guys talked about this before, there's this thing about Cam complaining about not being protected. Now, I got to assume that, and you guys will probably deny it, but I got to assume that referees are human and that these comments are going to have some effect on the way that they call this game.
But, that's life because I played 16 years, like you mentioned.
Right.
I only had one roughing the passer penalty call because sort of like
1 in 16
in my
years?
day, I was considered a big quarterback, and they always said, "Well, you're big, you can take it. Hush up, go back in the huddle and call a play."
It's incredible.
And as Tony, you haven't played. It's only going to get worse for Cam.
I agree. I don't think the refs are going to change one bit. They may even ignore him even more for complaining.
It's embarrassing when you see a quarterback of all people be Superman and then do all the celebration the guy does.
Right.
If you're going to be Superman didn't complain about getting hit and shot at.
Right. I think he's going to take his case to the commissioner, NFL commissioner, so Goodell. So it'll be interesting.
Well, yes, we know that Goodell is very sympathetic to our all-star quarterbacks. he likes them a lot.
I have a question.
With the change of rules, what they're going to end up doing?
When
the quarterback, because as you know, when the quarterback's out of the pocket, he's a runner. But now, if you don't want to get hit, stop and raise your hand. Then
nice.
And then ratings will really go down at that point. Who would you say, Roman? Who would you say is the best quarterback in the NFL right now?
I mean, when you go over a period of years and the personnel he's had to play with year after year, I say Brady has got to be number one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He really does. But how about your best young quarterback?
But as a young quarterback, I got to go Russell Wilson. As a young,
you like Russell?
I like Wilson, and you got to remember he went to my school, so I'm going to like him.
North Carolina State.
He's got all kind of talent. And then to be serious again, I got to throw Aaron Rodgers in that group and Roethlisberger because they've been probably three of the most consistent.
Oh yeah.
And then Phillip Rivers, he just hasn't had a winning team, but Lord, look at what he does with that team. What would the Chargers be without him?
Yeah.
And last but not least, little Drew Brees. Drew Brees every Sunday plays with big boy pants.
I remember watching Drew Brees play against Notre Dame when he was at Purdue. I mean, he just destroyed us every time we played him.
He hadn't slowed down either. Of course, it helped him to throw the ball to 92 times a game.
Wow.
Okay, so let me throw this one at you guys. I got a question for you here now. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Jeff Fisher in the world. You're making him sound a little better to me, Roman, calling him old school. But one thing he does have in his favor is coming out of the bye in the last 9 times, he's 7-1-1. Okay, so he's pretty fair coach when given 2 weeks to prepare. On the other hand, these Panthers are both near the top of the league in scoring points and near the bottom in giving up points. Can the Rams put up, say, the average 28 points that these guys give up? Can they do it this week?
Well, they can if they change their mindset as how they're running their offense. See, they're trying to key their offense in the running game. And right now, their offensive linemen are not producing holes for, what's the gentleman? Pretty good running back. What's the kid's
Todd
name?
Gurley.
Gurley. Yeah.
Type of running back. So they got to start calling plays to be off balance. Throw one first down because as Tony knows that'll open up the running game.
Definitely.
And I'm not trying to complain about how they're calling plays because I'm not there, but sometimes you get so enthralled in trying to have a running game that your passing game fails because all of a sudden your quarterback starts getting hit because guys forget how to pass block.
Yeah, it's almost as if they've given up on the running game. I think in that last game, I don't even think Gurley was in the lineup in that last drive where we were trying to score the winning touchdown. But we seem to be passing a lot more than we are trying to establish a running game. And You actually need them both.
Yeah. There's just so. I mean, I don't even like to blame Keenum for all the problems. I mean, to me, it looks like there's just not enough weapons on the offense here. You know, Kenny Britt has a decent game once in a while. He's obviously a very capable wide receiver. Okay, but after that, I mean, we've got a gadget player as our number 2 receiver. You know, it's just, it doesn't seem like there's that much. And you know, like we've talked about, Tony, on the show many times, this is a very young, very inexperienced line that's protecting these guys. I mean, and you know, Roman hit it on the head. These linemen are not creating any holes for Gurley, which is evident to anybody who's watched them this season.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I really like Tavon Austin, though, as a receiver. Good young receiver.
What's happened to him?
Yeah, they don't use that. They started out in that last game against the Giants over in London, and they were really getting him involved in the offense. And it looked great. And then it seemed like the second half they just forgot about him.
Well, they used up the playbook more or less. I mean, this is the thing about Tavon Austin. If you watch carefully, almost every time he's getting the ball, it's some kind of gadget play. It's a pass behind the line. It's an end around. You know, it's something that is not typical that a number 1 wide receiver is not doing most of the time. But I feel like this is a gadget player. You know, I feel like this is a gadget player, and yet he's an every down player on these Rams because we just don't have anybody.
Yeah, he's a unique talent, though. I think as far as his talent goes, sure. And when you have a talent like that, you have to find ways to get him the football. I'm here in Cincinnati, and A.J. Green is the wide receiver we have here, and I get a chance to see him quite a bit over the course of a season. And he was just in a really tough game against Washington, the Redskins, where he had that the quarterback for the Redskins guy. I can't think of his name right now. Number 24. He's probably. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Yeah, Cousins.
No. What's his name? I can't think of it, but he may be the best corner. He was in Carolina last year. He was in Carolina last year. He's with the Redskins this year. But anyway, A.J. Green just ate him alive because it seemed like every other play. I'm sorry, say it again?
Josh Norman, the corner?
Exactly. And I think Josh Norman is a really good corner. He's one of the top.
He's starting to complain too much, too.
Yeah, but A.J., the Bengals it seemed like every other play they were trying to get A.J. Green the ball, and they would line him up in different places, and he was really effective, and I think he got the best of Josh Norman that time. Ended up catching, I forget exactly how many catches he had, but the Rams need to do that same thing with Tavon Austin, I think. Just keep him involved in the game and line him up in different spots, and I think he could be a lot more effective if they did that.
Well, you know, you hit the nail on the head, Tony, because every great team on offense has to have a guy that can establish a pressure point. And Green's
a go-to guy.
Green's a go-to guy because then that opens up the rest of the guys. And Atlanta, who's that great receiver Atlanta has that makes
Julio Jones.
Yeah, boy, there's another one. And Brady has that little guy, number 11, who doesn't have to catch his passes and Gronk up. But all these teams have a guy that can develop a pressure point.
Yep, and it opens everything else up for everybody else. I agree. Don't forget about those 2 big tight ends that Brady has up there in New England. Those Gronkowski.
Oh, no, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, if you watch these games, to me, and I've said this on some other podcasts, to me, Martellus Bennett is like the anti-fantasy player. I mean, this guy is one of the most important players on that field every time he's on the field, and he gets maybe 3 catches a game. You know, I mean, he's doing the blocking, he's doing the decoy work. I mean, he's just everywhere. I mean, what a tremendous addition in the offseason.
And all he does is touchdown passes. He catches 4, but 2 or 3 of them are always for touchdowns.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brady last week, right? This guy has 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers, and then LeGarrette Blount runs one in as well.
And you got a guy like Gronkowski, who's the biggest side of the house. He catches one and goes 57 yards.
Unbelievable. Big, fast, and I bet he was a heck of I hear he was a heck of a basketball player in high school, too. But Martellus Bennett, I watched him when he was with the Bears. Yeah. He looks like, I didn't realize he was as good as he is now that he's with Belichick in New England. He looks like a different player to me right now.
Yeah, amazing how it happens these days. These players leave Chicago, and they're suddenly much better.
Right.
Belichick has the way, his whole scheme, not only tight ends it's every position. They lose a guy, and the guy that comes in plays almost as well as the guy they lose. Right.
Belichick has a way of just seeing what it is that you do well, and he incorporates that into a scheme, his offensive scheme or defensive scheme or whatever. He lets you do what you do well in the games. And
that's right.
Yeah, he just takes it away from you. How would you rank Coach Allen against Coach Belichick, Roman?
I think they're very similar coaches because Belichick is more of a defensive guy, where George Allen was, and where we were very fortunate, we had a guy like Ted Marchabrody that ran our offense. And as you follow the history, Ted went to the Redskins with George, and then Ted ended up being a head coach with the Baltimore Colts and the Indianapolis.
Right, with the Colts, yep.
And then he ran the offense with Jim Kelly, that what they call it, the Kelly gun or whatever it was. That was Ted.
The hurry-up offense. offense.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, now, Belichick's got the guy that I think he had left and went to Denver, now is back with him, who seems to be quite an offensive guy. All these great teams have good offense, and Shanahan's down there in Atlanta, and look what they're doing.
Okay, we'll let you get out of here, Roman. Any parting thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, remember this, Tony, and you, David. Life is too short to play dead, so enjoy it while you got it.
No question about it. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking with you, Roman. It's been a pleasure.
Now go out and have a toddy on me, but not too many.
You take care of yourself, big guy.
Okay, thank you, guys.
We'll talk to you soon, and that will wrap it for the LA Rams 2.0 show here at thegruelingtruth.net. For my co-host Tony Hunter and our very special guest Roman Gabriel, I'm Oz Davis, and we are out of here. Talk to you next week.
I'm not going 7-9. Okay?